I want to make a few assumptions. First assumption, political communication is an exercise in public relations. That is my assumption, and that is what I believe it is. I believe anybody who engages in political communication is engaged in an aspect of public relations. Because political communication is also about building affinity with the various stakeholders of political organizations. I also assume that ethics in public relations and political communication are like I and my father are one. They are one and the same things. They are applicable both ways. Except the emphasis on political communication, because it could have dire consequences if it goes wrong. And there are so many examples of this, both within our own political sphere and international. I take the topic that we are discussing today, PR ethics and political communication in an election year, challenges, prospects, and recommendations for democratic development. I take it to be a tree, just for sake of argument, because I want an opportunity to assume that whilst talking about the tree, which is the topic, I can also talk about the Agama lizard. Okay, it hasn't sunk. You know, for those of you who did biology in secondary school, or any other subject that you might have done, but biology lends itself to this example a lot more. You have studied everything about the Agama lizard. That is the topic or the question that you are convinced will be on the question paper. You go into the exams hall. There is no question on Agama lizard, but there is a question on the tree. And maybe you are supposed to identify the stem of the tree, the roots of the tree, and talk about their importance to the tree. But because you have learned Agama lizard so much, you look for an opportunity to say, at times the Agama lizard comes to perch on the branch of the tree. At this juncture, one may ask, what is an Agama lizard? And then you move straight into your comfort zone. I'll do a little bit of that. I would also want to say that this topic is an exercise in the political realm. And so I assume I am allowed to cite examples from the political realm, because the examples to political communication do not exist in the church. With these assumptions, I would want to proceed. PR at a glance. Next slide. And let's move to the next quickly. Whilst putting this together, I told myself, I don't want to engage in any classical definition about public relations. I don't want to engage in any academic definition about public relations. Your lecturers will have inundated you with enough of those. But still, I felt, let me then look at a few professional definitions of public relations. The International Public Relations Association defines it as a decision-making management practice tasked with building relationships and interests between organizations and their publics based on the delivery of information through trusted and ethical communication methods. And so even in the definition by the International PR Association, there is the concept of ethical communications. Then the Public Relations Society of America says PR is a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. Whether your organization is a political party or a corporate organization, PR uses communication to build relationships between the entity and the publics. And then there is what I call the PR Sphinx. I say so because PR is a profession that is still discovering itself. Definitions abound. It's not just PR that has several definitions, but when it comes to the very practice of the profession, you would realize that depending upon where you find yourself, depending upon the sector or the industry, what you do might have a bit of variations. There is this gentleman called Ivy Lee, who is believed to have been, let me use the word spin doctor advisedly, the spin doctor who was able to turn around Rockefeller's name and image. And he defined public relations as a management function which tabulates public attitudes, defines the policies, procedures, and interests of an organization, followed by creating and executing a program of action to earn public understanding and acceptance. Now, after he had done this definition, there was a commission that was set up that was trying to go into a number of issues about organizations. And this is what he said: I have never been able to find a satisfactory phrase to describe what I do. This magician of a PR person says he doesn't have a phrase that defines what he does. To make matters worse, the historian Eric Goldman said the definition of PR in Webster's dictionary will be disputed by both practitioners and critics in the field. I have seen so many definitions of public relations. Most of them I completely disagree because they are inadequate or they do not reflect what we do as PR practitioners, or they are skewed. And I'll tell you what I mean by they are skewed. Now, PR from the cradle. What I mean by this is, how did we meet PR? How did public relations begin? Public relations started using platforms like newspapers, radio, television events, sponsorships, staff bulletins, and those were the platforms, those were the channels that public relations practitioners were using to execute their role, to deliver on their role, to execute their plans. The key tools, a little bit restricted. Press releases, press conferences, interviews, feature articles. That was what it used to be. And those were the days when there were no social media. Those were the days when newspapers go to bed. And I believe you know what the concept of newspaper going to bed is. Today, the media space does not go to bed. And the process, as we were told in various definitions, it's organization-wide, it is planned, it's a management function. What I want to tell you is that this is a very limited perception of public relations. My biggest frustration as a PR practitioner is when I meet colleague practitioners and you ask them, so what do you do as a PR person? And what they will tell you is limited to issues like, yes, I manage the media, I arrange for media coverage, I put together reports, media reports on my organization, I write speeches, I organize press conferences, I organize events, and it almost ends there. We restrict the meaning and practice of public relations to publicity to the complete exclusion of the various strategic tasks that public relations represent. And so in the previous slide, you would realize that in terms of process, public relations is positioned as a management function. I will tell you that over and beyond that, public relations is a strategic function. Management can be just operational, supervision, making sure that things are done. As a public relations practitioner, it is your responsibility to anticipate the future and put in place public relations interventions that would help you achieve what you have anticipated in the future. And I'm talking about for your organization, wherever you work. So straight from the sleeve, what I mean is straight from what I have come to understand, straight from my heart, straight from my practice. I can tell you public relations is about the social media monster. And so today we talk about online public relations, which is a big thing. You can't be a public relations practitioner today if you don't have the skills and the competencies to tame the online monster. You need it. It is not easy. It is never perfect, but you have to. So in terms of platforms, yes, social media, online publications, products and services, which you might not have found in the previous slide I was talking about, Cradle, where public relations started from. Now, organizations deploy their products and services as part of their public relations interventions. Workshops, meetings, facility visits, business-to-business meetings, business-to-customer, business-to-client meetings, all these offer platforms for us to deliver public relations interventions. Then there are town halls, there are VNRs, video news releases, podcasts, webcasts, blogging. The list is unending. So you can compare these platforms that we practitioners deploy today to the platforms that I listed in the previous slide that spoke about the Cradle, newspaper, television, sponsorships, events. That was where it ended. This should tell you the extent to which this profession is expanding. And as students in this area, it is your responsibility to try and catch up with the development that is going on. Next slide. We spoke about the tools, and it was about press releases, news conferences, and whatever. These are today's tools for public relations. Purpose. Public relations practitioners are responsible for bringing out the purpose of organizations. What is purpose? Today's organization does not want to be seen just as a transactional organization. Whether they are engaged in marketing, whether they are engaged in banking, they want to be seen as organizations that have a purpose over and beyond the bottom line, a purpose over and beyond what they were established to do. Let me see whether I can give an example to bring this home. And so if you take MTN, I'm not sure what their purpose is, but I guess their purpose will be something close to connecting people everywhere. That is what they want to deliver to you. That is the value that they want to deliver to you. It is not about their bundles. It is not about their broadband. It is about their ability to offer you connection. And that is their purpose. Bear in mind, purposes of organizations are not completely delayed from their core functions, from what they were set up to achieve, but purposes are positioned in such a way that organizations are able to bring out what is the additional value that they bring beyond their products and service. It is your responsibility as a PR practitioner to help your organization to identify its purpose. What do you use it for if you're able to identify your purpose? It helps you in your narratives. It helps you in your advocacy. It helps you in your lobbying. And so if you are meeting any government representative in order to influence policy, you are able to take the position that I don't just exist to sell data and voice products, but I exist to provide connection for Ghanaians, connection for businessmen, connection that moves this economy forward. I believe you understand the concept of purpose. I've taken time to explain it because it is an emerging concept, and you don't find it reflected in a lot of state organizations, public organizations. I will go through the others very quickly. Your responsibility, one of the key tools of PR is the building of image and reputation. I won't dwell on that. It's about stakeholder engagement. It's your responsibility to make sure that the stakeholders of your organizations, that the stakeholders of your political party are so engaged to the extent that they are your partners in the various interventions that you get yourself involved in. It's about influencing. PR is about crisis management. It's about the voice of the customer. As it is said, we PR practitioners are the ears, the eyes, and the mouths of the organization. We are responsible for both inside out and outside in communication. When your organization is not saying things right, it is your responsibility to draw their attention to it. I will share an experience with you. As my brother, chairman, and senior colleague indicated, as soon as he moved out of Vodafone, I chased him and moved in there. I remember at one of our board meetings, those who were responsible for the Experience Center were making a presentation on how the Experience Center was performing. They spoke about the fact that 99.8% of calls are received and responded to. And those were times when the Vodafone had a bit of a challenge. And so I asked the person, colleague directors seated at this table, what is the first question you are asked when anybody meets you and gets to know that you work with Vodafone? And at that period, it was rampant. The first issue they were raising, and your call center, nobody picks our calls. And even when they pick, they are clueless. Then we want to help us resolve our challenges. And you come into the courtroom and come and say you respond to calls and resolve issues at a rate of 98% point something. No, it doesn't tally with the experience that I have. It doesn't tally with my interactions in the community. This is your responsibility as the voice of the customer, the voice of the stakeholder for the organization. But please, the caveat, you ought to be careful. You ought to know when to raise these issues and when not to raise these issues. It is for you to determine the timing, the environment, the context, where you would raise issues like this. Else, you find yourself coming across as one who does not belong to the institution that you work for. That is the caveat that I will give you. It calls for a careful balance, a lot of emotional intelligence to know when to talk and when not to. Government relations is public relations. Media relations, of course, you know. Community relations, employee engagement, issue management. If there is any here that you want clarification on, we can talk about that. But all these constitute public relations. And so, public relations is not just about publicity. And all these are strategic trust. Preparing to manage crisis for the organization is a strategic activity. Government relations, building relationship with government is a strategic activity. Public relations is not just a very big function, it's a strategic activity. Next slide. Social performance. Social license to operate. Do you know about social license to operate? Every organization requires certain licenses in order to operate. Business license, tax clearance, public procurement, all kinds of licenses. But there is what is called the social license to operate, which is not a legal requirement. It is the license that we public relations practitioners develop, create for the organizations that we work with. When I used to work with Talo Oil, I spent a lot of time in the Western region. There is no chief in the Western region that I didn't have a one-on-one relationship with. There is no civil society organization, no media person. And why did I do that? I did that because the Western region was the center, Takoradi was the center of our operations. And I needed to ensure that if for nothing at all, we have goodwill among the people of Takoradi to be able to operate. It is not for nothing that all these years that the oil industry has existed, there has not been any significant issues, civil strife, protests from the Western region. Because this has been built on year after year. I'll give you a contrast. I did a little bit of work for Talo in Uganda. They were exploring in Uganda. I put together a few suggestions based upon my experience in Ghana. And I'm telling you, it is not as if there are no issues between the chiefs and the operators of the oil industry. But the issues are managed. I have been part of meetings. I have moved into Takoradi because I have gotten indications that a section of the chiefs are angry. And I'm able to pick indications as to why they are angry. I move into the region, I invite them to a meeting. As they are coming, I tell myself, Gayheart, can you manage this? You can see the anger, glaring anger, over issues of social investment that have not been done, issues of community support that have not come through. The anger is real. But by the time the meeting ends, they are able to diffuse the anger and give assurance that A, B, C will be done. And so back to Uganda. I made a few suggestions. There wasn't enough time to implement until things got to a head. And the community went up in arms. And they prevented Talo from continuing with its exploration. Bear in mind that in the oil and gas industry, one platform for purposes of whether drilling or production or whatever can cost you anything between $500,000 and $800,000 a year on rental basis. Bear in mind also that most oil organizations don't have their own equipment. They rent almost everything. And so we had equipment in the oil field in Uganda, not one, not two, not three, not four. We were paying that amount, $500,000, $800,000 a day for each of them. The community said, you are not working here, you are not operating here. The equipment were there. We kept on paying for them. As for the one who lent the equipment, whether you use it or not, it is not his problem. Indeed, as soon as the equipment set sail, whether from Singapore or from Brazil, they start collecting their money on a daily basis. So we tried to manage the tension. After 2 weeks, we realized that this is going to be a long tension to manage. What they try to do, they move the equipment back to where they rented it from because they continue to. Why am I telling you this story? Very often, public relations practitioners are told that we don't bring value to the organization, that we have nothing, we are just a cost center. Can you imagine the extent to which we could have saved costs in Uganda if our community relations had been top-notch? As I said, one equipment, 500, 800,000 seats. Public relations delivers value. It is your responsibility as a public relations practitioner to identify the value that you deliver, put monetary value on it, and use it as your trump card. Again, just on this issue of delivering value, before I move on to the other, because it's a very current and contentious issue. They say we don't deliver value. When I was at Vodafone, you might all remember MTN had their 4G long before Vodafone had its 4G. Government has 30% shares in Vodafone. They were not making contributions. And Chairman will tell you, they were not contributing to the running of the company. I led a process that brought government to agree that yes, you don't have money to invest in the business. MTN has bought 4G at $67.5 million. So we are going to give you half of that, 34 or something, 33.5. We are going to give you half of that as our contribution to running the business, so that you will also have 4G. I led that process. Conversations with ministers of finance, ministers of communication, the president, the vice president, different people. At the end of the day, government gave Vodafone 5G, no payment, as their contribution. Who says public relations hasn't delivered value? Who says it doesn't deliver value? And so it became my teasing one in the boardroom. Anytime any issue comes up, I say, hey, keep quiet. This year, me, I led a process to bring $33.5 million. Marketing, what have you brought? Shut up. Public relations is about corporate branding, is about storytelling, is about social investment, is about lobbying. I had to do a lot of lobbying to get to that position. And mind you, lobby is not negative. At times we add negative connotations to lobby, but you lobby to get something positive done. When lobbying is intended for negative purposes, then it belongs to a certain category of idiom. It's about environmental footprint. It's about sustainability. Another very important concept today. In today's world, we assess the performance of organizations not solely by way of their profitability. And you know, profit is referred to as bottom line, not just by way of profitability. Today, when organizations are being assessed, when performance are being assessed, you are assessed on how you are performing socially, you are assessed on how you are performing environmentally, as well as the money, economically. These three have become known as the triple bottom line of how organizations are assessed. And that is what feeds into sustainability. The argument is that for your organization to be sustainable, it has to be economically sustainable, environmentally sustainable, and socially sustainable. Who are the ones who drive sustainability? It is a PR person. PR isn't just about publicity. It's about how you ensure that socially the organization is responsible, environmentally the organization is responsible, and economically it's about the extent to which you are able to put together those communication campaigns and strategies that help your organization to deliver on its objectives. Next slide. And so this slide, as I said, is dear to me because I am on a crusade to change the perception that PR is just about publicity. Nothing annoys me most than when I sit in the boardroom. And those of you who have done marketing, you come to the boardroom, come and present your plans and whatever. And then towards the end of your marketing plans, then you say something to the investors. And then we'll do some small PR in addition. And then what is the PR that they do? They are going to procure t-shirts, do branded items, do interviews, 1 or 2 interviews. And that is their PR. Is there anything about sustainability? Is there anything about government relations? Is there anything about social investment, CSR, whatever? And at times, marketing people want to think and believe that they understand PR, like as the professionals. If you limit yourself to publicity, if you limit yourself to media relations, that is when you will have people telling you they know your job more than you. And then the process, I wouldn't dwell too much on this. It is a strategic function. It is PR, it is research-based. PR is scientific. PR is scientific. Look, you cannot start any PR intervention if you haven't conducted a research. You cannot. At times it is public opinion survey, it could be desktop research, it could be focus group discussion, but PR is strategic. Research-based. It is worldwide today. It is anticipatory. PR is not operational. You don't just sit and be told what to do. You have to anticipate. This is the corporate strategy of the University of Professional Studies, Accra. What can I do as a PR person to help the university to deliver on the strategy that it has put together? Your PR strategy should bring alive the corporate strategy of the university. And so PR is strategic. PR is anticipatory. PR is monitored. It is evaluated. If you engage in any PR intervention and you don't monitor and evaluate throughout the implementation of the process, you might not get it right. Next slide. A bit on political communication. It's an exercise in PR, communicating with voters. It's about influencing policies, policymakers, the media and citizens. It's about sharing information both across traditional and new media in a political context. It's an analysis of the media speeches and actions of politicians. It's about conversations in the public space as well. And so political parties are able to get people into the public space to participate in conversations. At times even in trotros, they put people in trotro to go and provoke conversations in order to have an indication as to what the public is thinking about a particular policy or process. It's about linking politics and citizens and the interaction modes that are deployed. What are the modes that are used? What are the platforms? What are the formats? Is to build political affinity. Political communication is to build political affinity for a particular political group. Next slide. Political communication is usually among the triumvirate. The triumvirate are political actors, the media, and the public. There are tensions and pressures among the three as they discuss the allocation and use of public resources, official authority and how it is exercised, official assumptions. These interactions tend to have a direct or indirect effect on the different levels of decision making. The ultimate goal of political communication is to impact political knowledge, political attitudes and behavior, particularly voting patterns. Next slide. Now, let's talk a bit about ethics, which is at the center of our discussion today. Next slide. My chairman said it at the beginning. Ethics are difficult to imbibe. Let's not kid ourselves. Extremely difficult. Wherever you find it, whether in politics, whether in medicine, in every profession, ethics are difficult to imbibe. And that is why you hear about the phrase cutting policy. Okay? So I wanted to make that statement that was made. But it's about how you balance moral and competitive imperatives in politics. Politics is a different kind of game. There are a lot of imperatives, things that ought to be done, things that ought to be achieved. How do we balance morality with these imperatives? This is a very difficult task. Political communicators, they want to win, they want to mobilize. And the question is, does the approach to winning, does the approach to mobilize matter? Of course it matters. That's why there are ethics. But the politicians will tell you the end justifies the means. There was a recent election in this country, and that election was full of lies and atrocities. I won't make direct reference to the election. It was full of lies and atrocities, great lies. Okay. At the end of the day, the one who peddled the most won. And in a conversation, he said, every election has a currency. The currency for this election is what I have. And so in this case, the currency was a misrepresentation, half-truths, whatever. And in that case, it worked for him. That is the extent to which ethics are very difficult to hold on to. It's difficult to impose artificial civility on political discourse. Difficult to impose civility on political discourse. Sami Jemfi and Nana Akomian. Difficult to get them to be civil. They will throw jabs once in a while. That is how the name is. The quality of conversations reflects our standard of democracy. There's no two ways about that. The extent to which we are ethical when it comes to political communication reflects where we are as a democracy. Corrupt and ethical, shallow conversations that prey on our worst instincts reflect our democracy. Some based on ethnicity. Those information shared that prey on our worst instincts tell us the level of maturity of our democracy. Journalism, my first love, is ruled by facts, no matter which way you look at it. It is not to say that there is nothing about, nobody does any story in the media that is not true. But the basic principle underpinning journalism is facts. Political communication is a personal thing. And so we have different types and grades of political communications. And I believe you know them. It is about what you are willing to do. And for some of them, instead of ethical consideration, asking themselves, is this thing that I'm saying right, fair, whatever? The question they ask themselves is, can I get away with this? For them, that is a decider. That makes it difficult. And there cannot be absolute alignment on all political issues. Clear. It is about a common humanistic conviction. A common conviction that we are striving for, that we should know that words matter. And we should choose our words when we are communicating politically in such a way that we do not unnecessarily inflame passions. Fine gentlemen, one of the cleanest politicians that have ever crossed this planet, McCain. During his 2008 presidential campaign, McCain, there is this pastor referred to, and this pastor called Jeremiah Wright. He has all kinds of stories and issues about him. When Obama was contesting McCain, the information came out that Obama had a certain special relationship with the pastor called Jeremiah Wright. And that was virtually impeaching on his campaign. In fact, it was quite volatile. McCain, who was his main adversary, his main competitor, his campaign team said, wonderful. This is what we can write on and will bring Obama down. McCain said, hey, stop it. My campaign is not going to participate in that kind of depraved campaign. To do so would have been expedient, but McCain was adamant. That was off limits. I am not going to run my campaign on the character of Obama. I am not. It is improper, it is unethical, and even if that would bring me votes, it is off limits. I won't do it. Then there is this lady also who said, I don't necessarily want to agree with candidates I support 100%. What I want to know is that they share fundamental truths about who we are as a people and who we want to be. Her concern, ethical communication, fundamental truth. If we disagree on that path, I can live with that. If you can't speak truth, if you can't be fair, if you can't respect your audience, if we disagree on that path, that is fine. Next slide. So, what are ethics? What are the issues to look at when we are talking about ethics in political communication or ethics in PR? And I'll go through this quickly. It's about integrity. It's about doing the right thing. It's about your values and beliefs. What are the values that shape you? What are the values that guide your conduct and character? It's about morality. It's about respect. Fairness. It's about altruistic intent. What is genuinely your concern, your emotions? What is in your heart? What do you want to do? The genuineness in you. It's about transparency. It's about honesty. It's about truthfulness. These are the pillars of ethics that should guide our communication, both as PR practitioners and also as political communicators. It's about accountability and responsibility for utterances and actions. When you make a statement, please know that you are responsible for what comes out of your mouth. You are responsible for your utterances. You don't need anybody to come and explain that this is what you meant to say. You have to take responsibility for that. It's about checking your facts. It's about avoiding attacks on persons and focusing on policy issues, just like McCain did. It's about data privacy. As political organs, we come across data of voters and all kinds of data. To what extent do we protect the privacy of the data that we have with all the telephone numbers? No wonder today you get calls from all kinds of places. Where they get your number from, only God knows. All that you can do is to tell them, where the EMFA. So it's about responsibility, it's about fact checking, it's about focus on issues, data privacy, respect for privacy, social media ethics. I'm looking forward to the day when we would have a certain level of conformity regarding how we apply social media. Organizations are doing well. Organizations are developing their own social media policy. When will this all dovetail into a kind of framework, regulatory framework, that will guide how we conduct ourselves on social media? The lies, the misrepresentations are too many. And at times, when you try to do the right thing, you rather find yourself in trouble. We were running a promotion at Vodafone. Those were the days of scratch card. And so there were two panels to scratch. The first one you scratch, you get your credits. The second one, you win something. The promotion started. It was doing extremely well until social media displayed one of our scratch cards. The second panel, which is supposed to say you have won 50 CDs or 100 CDs or whatever, what has been written there was Pasia Sikanape. And it's been done so well, it was so believable that this is one of our scratch cards. And so social media went mad. Vodafone is insulting us? Wow. The promotion took a booster. Started crisis meeting. What do we do? And then I was surprised myself. When the meeting I chaired, the IT person there said, "Boss, you can identify this person, you can get him." I said, "How do you get him? This is something that he just put on social media. Is it possible?" This was in 2015, 16. "Is it possible?" He said, "Yes, give us some time, we'll get back." And so I said, "Okay, how long do you need to get back?" "Give us about 45 minutes. Meeting adjourned. Let's come back in 45 minutes and proceed." About 30 minutes, I get a call. "Boss, we have found him." "Found him where?" "He is somewhere in Background." I said, "Oh." "And so can we get him physically?" They said, "Yes." I called the corporate security guys. That evening, I dispatched a team to Background. Early morning, I got a message. "Boss, we got him." Can Can you imagine that? And so don't think you are doing anything on social media and hide. And so there are laws, there are traps, there are all kinds of background things that can track you wherever you are. But the story hasn't ended. When they got him, I said, okay, report him to the police. And so they went to the police, they did a story. Then they said, boss, what do we do next? I said, you know something? Once there's a story in the media that we have arrested him and that it was fake, it's okay. I don't think this is a case that we should pursue. Then come and see social media when they saw the story and the picture of the boy. In fact, some small boy. I think then he was 18 years old. Black, innocent, handsome face. And then social media named him Blackie. And they went like, oh, mighty Vodafone. Small boy Blackie was playing on social media. And you have sent police to go and arrest him. Now we are going to boycott all. You can't win on social media. It's a completely different ball game. So, we'll do this one quickly. The Public Relations Society of America, they have a code of ethics. And yes, they say is to conduct ourselves professionally with true accuracy, fairness, and responsibility to the public, to improve upon individual competence, and advance the knowledge and proficiency of the profession. So basically, it's to tell you that they have a code of ethics, okay? And the code of ethics also has a few highlights. I mean, I'll go through them quickly. Next slide. Is to deal fairly with clients, conduct ourselves professionally, adhere to truth and accuracy, not intentionally communicate falsehood, not intentionally injure people's reputation, not guaranteeing achievements, specific results beyond what I can do as a PR person, and to sever relationships with any entity, any organization that is requiring of them to do something that they think it's unethical. Next slide. A typical example of ethics, code of ethics, is what we call the Hippocratic Oath. That is taken by the medical doctors, Hippocratic Oath. It has 4 pillars: beneficence, non-malfeasance, justice, respect, which are underpinned by confidentiality and veracity. Beneficence, and so if you see a nurse holding the hands of a dying person, trying to give the person courage, hope, what? It is part of their code of conduct. Beneficence. Next slide. Now, I would say a few things. I'll make a few observations before we go to the next slide. A PR professional's reputation and the reputation of the profession depend on the ethical choices everyone associated with the profession makes. Each of us, PR professionals, set examples for each other and for the profession. Our pursuit of excellence with powerful standards of professionalism and ethics is what will earn us our respect, recognition, and the celebration that we yearn for. For an industry of reputation specialists, it is ironic that the public relations industry has a tainted reputation. PR practitioners are accused of spinning, my chairman said it, spinning stories to suit clients, interest at the expense of truth. There is a constant echo of distrust about PR with such descriptors as PR ploy, PR maneuver, PR gimmick, PR game, among others. What is worse, we as PR practitioners at times are not trusted by our own employees, because some of us have been found to leak negative and at times untrue information to the media. These are things that we need to be extremely careful about. Next slide. And for me, this is a very simple one. Very often, we are told that, oh, PR is different from political communication. oh, you are from the corporate world, you don't understand political communication. I am telling you today that there is no difference between political communication and what you do as PR practitioners. Wherever you find yourself, depending upon the industry, the emphasis might differ. But in terms of the platform, the framework, the approach, the concept, the strategic approach, the principle, model, ethics, channel, the objective, there's no difference. Absolutely no difference. Next slide. So what is it that makes political communicators think that those who practice PR in the corporate world do not understand political communication? My own good friend Uchemalo, extremely outstanding, works with the UN, ventured into politics, he couldn't survive. He was chased out. The belief was that he didn't understand political communications. Exceptionally good. He's back at his UN job doing exceptional things. I've had my own battles when I am told to do things that I think are not proper. And I can be stubborn at times, and I insist on doing the right thing. And very often what I hear is, really, he doesn't understand political communication. All he understands is corporate communications. There is nothing different. Same thing, similar. What are the challenges of unethical communications in an election year? Next slide. It is how to prevent the hawks from trampling ethical conduct. And you know the hawks, I mean, it's not a specific individual, but every political organization has its own hawks. They have their own idea as to how things should go. They have their own ideas as to how politics should run. And very often, they have stronger voices than you, the PR practitioner, than you, the professional. The challenge of political communication going into the future is how to tame the hawks and make sure that professionalism and ethical conduct is what triumphs. The challenge is about campaigning and messaging and the vile attacks that come with it. How do we manage it? I remember in 2020, I made a proposal that the Institute of Public Relations should put together a training program for political communicators in the run-up to the 2020 elections. We were not able to put resources together in order to do that. Now I am throwing that challenge to the University of Professional Studies. You have the lecturers, you have the facilities. The University of Professional Studies should consider bringing PR practitioners together with their faculty members and develop a training program for political communicators in this country as their contribution to the peaceful election and to the development of democracy. Another challenge is the spread of hatred. Everything that is said is being interpreted to mean that you are being ethnically biased or you are being anti a particular religion. And so some judge says something and it is interpreted to mean that it's against Muslims. Somebody also says, so those are the challenges that we're going to have going into the election year. Ethnicity and tribalism, misinformation and fake news all over the place. Falsehoods and half-truths from political communicators. Lack of strategic approach to communication, particularly by those who are engaged in political reporting. Messaging and proof points. People say anything and get away with it. They don't substantiate it. There are no proof points to support the political messages that we give. Accountability and responsibility. People talk, they don't take responsibility for what they say. And so as a politician, there is flag in Mepe. I go to Mepe to sympathize, to see the extent of damage. And then I tell them, you didn't vote for me, but still I have come to see you. And there are people who will defend this. These are the challenges that we will have going into the 2024 elections. That political communicators And those who are engaged in messaging do not take principled positions, do not take ethical positions, see nothing wrong with what the color of their parties do. If we persist in this, we will have a challenge going into the 2024 elections. Respect and fairness, transparency and honesty, truthfulness and fact-checking, privacy, unethical media relations. We go into all kinds of arrangements with specific people in the media in order to push our political stories. And it is also based upon promises of a share of something. It is unethical. Influencing media practitioners that way is not the right thing to do when you are talking about ethical media relations. Next slide. Challenges of political communication. Sorry, go up. 27, please. Challenges of political communication in election years about how to manage information and all that. But let me come to the last point here. The challenges of political communication in election year are how to minimize falsehood and information or language that can draw a wedge among us. It is about ensuring that what we communicate contributes to keeping the peace and unity, progress and development of this country. Next slide. We're going to look at the prospects of political communication. And there's a lot of prospects. A lot of prospects because there's a global trend that is in favor of democracy. There's what I call social media clubbing. We are all on one form of social media or the other. And so it offers prospects for engagement, for feedback, for communication, for sharing information. It's also about the information superhighway that the internet has come to represent. Every information you want, you can access it on the highway. Instant feedback through social media. Democracy is rising. In spite of what we see in the Sahel, there is that congruence of opinion that democracy and not autocracy is the way forward. CSOs are getting interested in governance. Youth activism, we saw it in this country. What was the name of their demonstration? It's speaking technology and innovation high up there. So there are a lot of prospects that we need to be happy about when it comes to democracy. There's an African proverb which says, it is the young trees that make up the forests. Another one says, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrowed it from our children. And so to the extent that our children are getting excited about political communication, about democracy, I think it holds good prospects for us. Now I come to recommendations. We must extend, first commendation for democratic development. We must extend some respect to the electorate and stop the often absurd and unconscionable defenses of statements of the political elites, which from all perspectives of logos, ethos, or pathos, were conceived of in questionable moments, nourished in minds that need some balancing, and spewed out by party appendages parading under the cloak of political communicators. You wonder where this thought came from. You wonder who nourished this thought. But you get people belonging or pretending to belong to political leaders expressing some of these thoughts. Next slide. We must stop recruiting political communicators and PR practitioners whose only claim to PR is that they can speak English and they have a good voice. And we do that very often. Once you speak good English, they say, you are a PR person. Do you understand sustainability? Do you understand crisis management? Do you understand social performance? We just look out for the voice and we say, hey, there goes the PR person. Whilst those traits enhance political communication, they add little value if they are not tempered with knowledgeable professional ethics and principles of political communication. Sorry, it should be, if they are not tempered with knowledge, professionalism, ethics, and principles of political communication. A training regime, complete with certification, must be put in place for all political communicators, sponsored by the political parties and our government partners, to ensure adherence to basic ethics in communication and to enhance Ghana's democracy. And I have thrown that over to the UPSA to see whether they can run with it. That would be very, very lovely. Political actors in Ghana must sponsor a code of ethics for political communication with a clear sanctions regime in the build-up to the 2024 elections. All political parties might sign up for it and pledge to ensure that those who communicate in their name and on their behalf shall abide by the articles of the code. Consideration must be given to a PR ethics committee of a sort or a commission, either within the Institute of Public Relations or within the public arena, to serve as a standards enforcer. That is, if we appreciate the dangers inherent in political communication persistently going wrong. Next recommendation. PR training institutions like the UPS must work in concert with industry to undertake ethical communication literacy campaign appropriately targeted at relevant audiences within the body politic to help in critically assessing political information that is shared. Political mischief, which invariably finds expression in political communication pieces or supposed PR interventions, must give way to sober minds in politics who are driven more by patriotism, nationhood, peace, and stability than by self or group interest. Next slide. Political communicators and PR professionals must advocate and prioritize ethical communication due to its importance in an election year. We must eschew disinformation and disinformation, particularly with the rise of digital media, where we increasingly communicate directly with the public with no gatekeeper, and where misinformation and disinformation is running. The IPR, working with communication professionals and the entire industry, must develop and implement an image and reputation building strategy for the industry, complete with a reputation management framework in order to be able to reposition their profession. The last slide on, thank you, I'm being clumsy. The last slide on recommendations, okay? We must avoid greenwashing, pinkwashing, whitewashing, astroturfing, sugar fixing, and spinning. What is greenwashing? I'll go through them quickly. Greenwashing is when you're not doing anything to support the environment as an organization, but you're able to put out stories and pretend you are supporting the environment. Pinkwashing is about health, pretending to be health conscious, supporting breast cancer, whatever. When in actual sense, it's just an effort at tokenism. That is what is called pinkwashing. Whitewashing, making everything look white. And so there was this Deputy Minister of Information. He was having a session with the staff at the Information Services Department. A lawyer, not a PR person, speaks well. And he was giving them a lesson in PR. He told them that, look, PR is about when you see a lean black cow, you tell the public that you saw a fat white cow. Can you see how depraved we can become when it comes to whitewashing? when it comes to, this is not spinning, this is lies. And public relations is not about lies. Astroturfing, pretending everything is nice, everything has been arranged. One program that is steep in mischief and is an exercise in political communication, despite the facade in which it is clothed, is the Metro TV program called Good Evening Ghana. It is presented by a younger colleague of mine. I call him my brother. This is a program on TV that puts pictures of political targets up on the screen to be used as dartboard. All kinds of invectives, either subtle or direct, are heaped on the picture of the political targets with absolutely no opportunity for them to respond or present the other side of the issue. It is a diatribe delivered in such condescending language to significant individuals whose boots the host is not fit to lace. Negative commentary with no respect for truth or facts is run on them, whilst questions are directed at the picture on the screen, like a head teacher scolding a class 3 pupil, as if pictures can talk back. If there is any program of political communication that flouts all, and I mean all the requirements of ethical political communication, it is none than the Good Evening Ghana TV program. Even the name of the program, Good Evening Ghana, has come to suggest a shutdown to Ghana's democratic development. Good evening. What is more surprising is that Metro TV's management Metro TV's management continues to accommodate this program, pay the host, and see nothing wrong with it. Its format and content conforms to nothing known in television programming, both locally and internationally. It is not a current affairs program. It's not a talk show. It is not a magazine program. It's not an interview program. It's not a commentary program. It's not a news analysis program. It must therefore be a very innovative format. So what creature, or rather what monster, is a Good Evening Ghana program? And the National Media Commission is watching on as politicians are taken to the cleaners by this tyranny of a TV program, with no opportunity to set records straight. Image and reputation of individuals, long built and established even before the host was born, are completely shredded on the program. What do people do to avoid this tyranny? The injustice, unfairness, extreme subjectivity, and media autocracy exhibited by the program are the infractions on ethical political communication, on professional journalism that we must not countenance in the build-up to the 2024 general elections if we want to exit the elections in one piece and if we want our democracy to develop. I suspect my picture could be on the next Metro TV screens because of my critique of how unethical the program is. I might start preparing for an avalanche of misrepresentations and half-truths directed at me. There is a certain tribe in Ghana, I won't mention the name of the tribe. When their ladies are about to start quarreling, they tell their adversaries, look, me, I know I have crooked legs. I know my great-grandfather was accused of stealing a goat. I know I have 3 children with 3 different fathers. But you. Then they will properly angle their insults. They have already provided all the negatives about themselves. deflating all subsequent insults directed at them. So, to any potential attacker from Metro TV, I'm about to unveil myself. Me, I know I contested for the GJA presidency and lost. Should I continue? But you, good evening, Ghana. You are the paragon of unethical political communication in Ghana, creating such visible and loud dissonance for political communication. Mr. Chairman, spinning has done damage to PR. We seem to be at the same place preparing to come here. We must restore dignity to communication so that when we share messages, there will be at least some believability about the message. Political communication should enhance Ghana's democratic development. Yet, political communicators have, through unethical practices, made words so ineffective and meaningless that we need a campaign to restore credence and decorum to the word. Today, the budget statement is being read, or maybe has been read. I have lost track. In recent years, under the Fourth Republic Constitution, budget statements have become packages of political communication. As serious as it ought to be, it has become an arena for serial infractions on ethical communication. Messages are shared on the crest wave of the budget statement with little thought for the intelligence of we the audience, all in a clear and monumental violation of ethical political communication. It has little truth, no honesty, no accountability. In 2017, the budget was christened Asempa budget. That was an exercise in political communication. After implementing the budget, it left us with no good news, no Asempa. In 2018, it was a Juma budget. That was in the midst of the controversial banking sector reforms, which led to a lot of loss of jobs. Graduate unemployment was also stuck during that period, and even now. In 2019, it was impromptu budget. When you are on the motorway and your car dips into a manhole, and the motorway is Ghana's premier highway, you will question your understanding of impromptu. In 2020, it was in Kosua and in Kabom budget. Yet, the voter registration exercise and the subsequent general elections were nowhere near in Kabom. We know what happened in some parts of Ghana. People were being asked all kinds of questions, virtually challenging their nationality. That cannot be in Kabom. In 2021, it was Wanya budget. The Ababase in that year and the following one, it has landed Ghana in today's state of deprivation, economic malaise, and impoverishment. In 2022, it was Ajinkwa budget. This is where I wish I could sing Erade Bejestiano. Indeed, Ajinkwa remains with the Lord Almighty. Last year, again it was in Kabom budget. We were back to Nkabom, meaning that 2020 Nkabom was neither intended nor pursued. No wonder we are now told a new president will come and take us to the promised land. I am waiting to hear the name for today's budget. I think it should be Anyaye budget. We choose words without a toss of what they mean when it comes to political communication. No wonder the electorate is losing interest in democracy, as we can see all around us, particularly in the Sahel region. If we don't restore credibility and integrity to political communication, we risk storing our democracy. Next slide. Next slide. No. Go up. Where are you coming from? I'm lost. Okay. No, just go up. Wanted. Ghana's leading PR and political communication institution. Again, I'm on UPSC. Where is that institution? That would be the institution for shaping up what we all appear to be concerned about, for making sure that the 2024 elections does not ride on the crest of political communication gone wrong and find us in places that we don't want to be. It used to be the Ghana Institute of Journalism. Is this still the case? Even if it was, there is a lot of room, a lot of expectations, a lot of anticipation, a lot of anxieties, a lot of antipathies. That should make the University of Professional Study want to be that institution. Now I come to my conclusion. Unethical political communication is not wine. It does not improve with age. No matter how long you engage in it, it is unethical. Tone and tenor of political communication inform democratic development. The role of the political communicator is to leave Ghana intact after the elections in 2024. Any communicator who exploits the susceptibility and gullibility of the voter is unethical. Code of ethics in electoral campaigns help political parties to better communicate with stakeholders and promote ethical campaigns. Deeper insights into public relations and PR serve as a fillip for our democratic development. Capacity building for the amorphous collection of individuals called political party communicators can fuel our democratic development. A code of ethics and standard of measure for political communication is crucial in the period in which we find ourselves. Having the gift of the gab must be complemented with proficiency in PR and public communication to enhance Ghana's democratic development. Public relations is not an exercise in magic. It cannot make bad look good. It's about doing the right things, remaining compliant, being a good corporate citizen, and engaging in ethical communication. And to you, my PR professional, honesty and integrity is all we have. Never compromise on it. As a communicator, as a PR person, you are effective if you have believability. If you lose that, you lose your profession. As we live here, if for nothing at all, when we decide to join in communicating towards the 2024 elections, either as zonal party members, community party members, any message you share, no matter the platform, ask yourself, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? I thank you for your attention.
As a follow-up to the example you cited concerning the Metro TV program that you find unethical, so I would I appreciate if you could give or answer why the National Media Commission exists and has been mandated by the Constitution in Article 167 to do such, regulate such media houses, and why they are not able to. And if this continues, does this have some implications? Thank you, sir.
In fact, I was happy to have heard of you mentioning PR being considered as a publicity sort of role for PR practitioners, and also there has been instances where you mentioned of branding of organization. They question what value would it bring to the organization. So my question to you is, you said you are on a journey or a crusade to make sure that those perceptions and notions do not continue. I am aware that IPR is here. Are you on an individual journey, or you have any intention of collaborating with the IPR in such a crusade? Thank you.
We talked about social media being important in the PR life, and you said you talk about social media monsters. So I wanted to ask who you are categorizing as the social media monsters, and what's your advice on how to tame those monsters?
Okay.
Thank you. Probably I'll start from the last question. My reference to social media as a monster is not in reference to any particular individual or group of people. It's in reference to the entire concept of new media, of social media. What they do, or what it can do to you, is what I classify as a monster. Everybody on social media has an opinion. It doesn't matter whether they are right or not. It doesn't matter whether they understand what the issue is or not. They express an opinion. And if you are not fortunate and the majority hold on to an opinion which is not right, then that becomes a monster for you, the organization, to deal with. And so it is not individuals, it is not groups, it is the entire movement on new media that I characterized as such. Then the question on whether I am a loner on a crusade regarding public relations, certainly no. The entire Institute of Public Relations has as an agenda to develop public relations practitioners who understand exactly the entire gamut of what public relations reflects, and not just understand, but are also positioned in such a way that they give a good account of themselves in whatever position they find themselves. So I am not a loner. I say I am on a crusade because I seize every opportunity I get to amplify some of these issues. Is the National Media Commission watching Metro without doing anything about it? Difficult to answer for them. I don't know whether anything has been done. I don't know whether there has been any meeting with the producers of that program. I am just making a comment on what I see, and to the extent that I haven't heard or read that there has been any question of the particular program, I take the position that the National Media Commission should be up and doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another question just came through. Somebody wants to find out here as to whether you have reached out to Montreal. Have you advised him? Have you spoken to him as to whether he was or he's been on this rough road for too long a time?
Okay, so I've taken note of it.
Okay, so that has been taken note of. And yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Gayheart, for the lecture. I am Dr. Justice Issa Abdullah, and I teach PR. But I've been teaching PR for quite some time now, and I always love to teach PR. Now, there's this question my students always ask me. if you are the head of corporate communications or whatever of your organization, something happens, you provide a professional advice, and yet management is not ready to take it. What should I do? Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Your name, please. If you don't mind, you can hear your feet. Okay.
Find yourself in a corporate environment as a PR person, and you are asked to take ethical actions in the environment. Do you go against your superiors, or you take the quacking the things around you?
Okay. So I think we have 3 sets now. Yes. And I think the third question somehow marries the second one. So I think you can take both together. Yeah.
All right, so again, to start from the last 2, let me first focus on the professor's aspect. If your professional advice is ignored by your organization, what do you do as head of corporate affairs? Now, bear in mind that every head of department works through the CEO. Whether you are director of public affairs, director of marketing, director of HR, you are accountable to the CEO. If you extend it, you are exercising that responsibility on behalf of the CEO, who has absolute responsibility for all the departments. Now, you give advice as a PR person, and the advice is ignored. Your job as a PR person is to advise your organization. Advices are either taken or rejected. Nothing wrong. What you can do is to try and document the advice that you have given, so that if tomorrow somebody asks you, so you sat there as a PR professional and you watched for this thing to go on, you would be able to pull evidence that this is the professional advice you gave. In some organizations, what you do is, if for instance, the one who ignored your advice is the CEO, you drop him or her a small email, dear CEO or hi CEO, depending upon which gender. I refer to the conversation we had last week concerning ABCD. I suggested we do ABCD. I think I still feel strongly about it. Your advice was that we do Y, X, Y, Z. I have taken your advice and I'll go accordingly, in spite of my own thoughts about whatever it is. Finished. You document it. Next time you are asked the question, this is what I said, and it was rejected. I hope I'm clear. Do you pack and leave? It depends upon where you find yourself as a PR practitioner. I have found myself in such situations many times. Many times. Those that you can cope with and are not too egregious an infraction on ethics, maybe you would want to live with it. Those that you cannot live with, it's a personal thing. But I'll share with you my own experience. As a PR practitioner, head of department, I was asked to do something, and I felt it was wrong, and I refused to do it. But from that point onwards, there was friction between me and my CEO. In my recent roles as consultant, I have been called upon to do things, and I have resisted. Some have been extremely difficult to resist. Difficult because of the individuals and personalities involved. because of their profile, because of where they belong in the hierarchy of this country. But if my senses and my values and my principles and my professionalism tell me that it is wrong, me, at this stage of my career, I won't do it. And that is what I mean by it depends upon what level of the career at which you are. If you have just started 5-6 years, you would refuse to do and pack and go home and eat what? What you can do in that circumstance is to understand that this is an organization that does not support the practice of my profession. This is an organization that does not understand the ethics of my profession. Bid your time and get out. Because if you don't, sooner than later, you will find yourself doing things against your conscience, which would harm you as a professional for the rest of your life, and will also have very, very devastating impacts on your future career. I'll share an experience with you. Also on ethics. By this time in journalism, I was the editor, then acting editor of the Evening News within New Times Corporation. I had a call from, I won't identify him, I'll just say head president. I had picked up a relationship with him. So once in a while he'll send me a story. Oh yeah, put this story on your front page for me. Yes sir. And I'll look at the story. If it's a good story, it's worth the front page, why not? And so I had that relationship. On this occasion I got a call. Okay, send me the story. And those were the days of fax, no WhatsApp, no email. So you fax the story to me through my fax, which was on my table. But on this occasion, I picked the story. When I read the story, I said, oh my God, this is a story that I cannot publish. It was full of libel, full of defamation, flies in the face of everything that you would call ethical journalism, ethical practice. I'm citing this example because of the issues of ethics that you raised. So I took the story, rewrote the story, cleaned it out, tried to be diplomatic, like I'm being told I am. And I faxed it back to him to have a look at. He got angry. He said, he called me back. He said, hey, young man, you have spoiled my story. Can you publish the story the way I sent it to you? Don't touch anything. Publish it that way. And then I said, Mr. President, if I publish the story that way, the next day, the subject in this story, because of the issues of libel and defamation, will go to court. We, as New Times Corporation, will have no defense. I'll have to go and stand in the dock and defend the story. I will have to tell the court where I got this story from. Mr. President, I can't tell the court that I got the story from you. The net effect will be, there will be a huge debt on New Times Corporation. And then he goes, New Times Corporation belongs to you, right? You pay the salary of the staff, right? And so when there is a debt, you pay from your pocket. It's not a state institution, you will pay. Can you publish the story the way I sent it to you? Wonderful. This is the president. What will you do? And I have somebody seated in front of me. In fact, the person was shivering more than me. So Gayheart, what are you going to do? At age 32, then, me, I refused to publish the story. And the following day, it was like this country has been turned upside down. Calls from National Security, Minister of Defense, Minister of Information, Chief of Staff. What have you done? What have you done to the old man? He's so angry, he's so pissed off. Some of them, when I explain to them, it's like, I want you to publish the story, he's the president. Depending upon where you find yourself, you take decisions relevant to what you do. I knew I could get an escape route even at that time. And so after I had refused and things were not going well, I left at the appropriate time. Any other questions? Sorry, have I spoken to Paul? That was a question. Have I spoken to Paul? I am sorry I will disappoint you on this. I will disappoint you because I will not be fair answering this question here. And so, can I plead with you? If you want, let's talk outside. This is a very public forum, so thank you.
Yeah, it's actually within the powers of the speaker to choose which issue to answer, not to answer, especially when there are issues of libel, etc. going around. Okay, so we're taking the last round of questions from 3 students, and then we can round it up.
Yeah, I think just don't go. Hold on a second. Don't go at all. Let me use you as a gatekeeper. Can you kindly close the door so nobody goes out? Yeah, gentlemen. So one of our sponsors, the concert people, have a souvenir outside, and please catch a copy of their books or get the t-shirts for 30 cedis, very cheap, or the brooch for 5 cedis. Concert, and you know what I'm talking about. And just stop lying with telling myself about concert. Yeah, so I think that ends the question session, and then we'll do what we have to do next. I saw it, one hand up, right? Well, yes. So you, okay. So let's do it quick. Please louder, please.
With the recommendations, he said something about certifications in the political communicated by political parties or other agencies. Please, what do you think political parties can give out space certificate to certain political communicators just to talk in favor of the political party?
Repeat the question. A bit louder. Certification, yeah.
Please, don't you think political parties can give out a fake certificate to political communicators just to talk in favor of the political party?
Okay, so let's take the last one, the gentleman at the back.
Okay, thank you. My question is on the relationship between PR participants and journalists. What should be the relationship between a PR practitioner and a journalist, especially when the fellow of yourself in his practice as a PR person? When we know that of late it is seen as though a lot of PR persons have been taken from the media space. What should be the right relationship between a PR practitioner and a journalist who do the start in your practice? Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Journalism and PR can be described as two of the different sides of the coin. Okay, if you are a journalist, it doesn't necessarily mean you can be a good PR person. It is just that journalism gives you some skills that is crucial when it comes to PR practice, like content development, like having access to the media. Don't forget, PR is also about lobbying and influencing, so you have access to a wide array of contacts by being a journalist. And so yes, it gives you some strengths that comes in handy when you are a PR person. But the attitude, the approach, the orientation to the two professions are completely different. The difference being that Whilst the main difference is that whilst with the journalists, it's about holding people accountable. It's about putting out those stories that will change society. For the PR person, it's about building image and reputation. It's more about protection and sustaining what your organization does. It's about organizational achievement. It's about what has the organization been able to deliver at the end of the day. The journalist is not interested in what the organization delivers. He is very much interested in the salacious stories. And so there is a huge difference. How do you manage the relationship with a journalist? This is a huge topic. A topic that I take about 2-3 hours to teach. I'll just try to summarize and say that managing relationships with journalists is about knowing that every relationship is a living thing. Every relationship. Whether it's relationship between you and your spouse, relationship between you and your parents, between you and your lecturers, relationships are living things. And it is your responsibility to identify what is it that nourishes a particular relationship and makes it grow. Every living thing feeds, and so does a relationship with a journalist. You need to nourish it. The relationship with your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, what does he like? What doesn't he like? What will you do to make him happy? Make her happy? You have to do that in order to nourish the relationship. And that is where at times we find ourselves in a number of unethical processes. Just to explain to you, I will use an example of myself, what I used to do in the past. I am one person who does not believe in something. I believe God. I don't believe in something. Given the opportunity, there will be no something. I don't say this loud enough because I know people around me. But as I said, the relationship has to leave. When I used to work at Vodafone, okay, I had access to phones by my position, new phones, whatever. And so, with journalists that I think I would need, with journalists that I have a relationship with, once in a while, without you even asking or knowing, oh, Sammy, where are you? What are you doing this evening? Shall let's meet, wherever. We meet, I have a phone with me, I give it to you. I'm telling you, the value you will get out of that is more than giving the journalists only 200 on 50 occasions. You don't need to give that excuse. It is the journalist's appreciation of your genuineness in terms of your relationship with him. And that you have given him the phone when he hasn't asked for it. When he hasn't come to cover any assignment for you. That is how you build relationships with journalists. Besides, you don't approach journalists only when you need them. Does he have a funeral? Is the auntie dead? Is just like the politicians too? Is the daughter having an engagement? Look for these occasions around journalists that you want to build relationships with. And be there with them in their happy moments, in their sad moments. That is how you build relationships with them. You don't only go when you need them. Let me share one example. I don't know, some of you might have noticed Jan Sako on social media. He's very, very active. He used to be the CEO
of the lecture. I am Dr. Justice Issa Abdullah and I teach PR. But I've been teaching PR for quite some time now, and I always love to teach PR. Now, there's this question my students always ask me. If you're the head of corporate communications or whatever of your organization, something happens, you provide a professional advice, and yet management is not ready to take it. What should I do? Thank you.
Please, if you
Daniela.
find find yourself in a corporate environment as a PR person, and you are asked to take on ethical actions in the environment, will you go against your superiors or will you take the easy way out, like packing your things and leave? And the certifications, please don't you think political parties can give out a fake certificate to political communicators just to talk in favor of the political party?
Unilever in Nigeria is a Ghanaian. I was once having a chat with him. He's a brilliant. I was having a chat with him when he was in Nigeria, and I was asking, that was his early days, so how are you fitting into Nigeria? You are a Ghanaian. Relationships, influences, how do you manage? And there's a story he shared with me that left me understanding what it means to build a relationship. So he says he books an appointment to go and see the past president, is that a week? Buhari. Thank you. Book an appointment to go and see Buhari. Took a bit of time, days, weeks. He got in, ushered into President Buhari's office, sat down, they had a chat. He said there were issues that he had identified about the Nigerian economy and recommendations that he had that will help improve things. And so he shared it to the president. With this issue that the government is pursuing, I think it should be this, I think it should be that. And this one, it was handled this way. What about this? What about that? Buhari sat back, listened, those of them were taking notes. Then he said, young man, thank you very much. I think these are very thought-provoking. Okay. Then he asked permission to leave. And the president asked him, is that all? Is that why you came here? When chief executives come to see me, they come to see me because they want to influence one policy or the other. Because they want one favor or the other. But you came to share suggestions and opinion with me. From that point onwards, he had an open door into the president's office. And he had an extremely good relationship. Why am I telling you this story? Don't just look for people when you need them. Don't just look for the journalists when you want to pitch a story. Have a relationship, an altruistic relationship, a relationship based on genuineness, a relationship based on wanting to see the journalist's progress and development. As I told you, I teach this for hours, and so you were able to take something in me to talk a little bit more about it. When you invite me, I can come, we can have a conversation about media relations.
Thank you very much.